Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to the Antisocial Podcast, episode 12. Thank you once again for everyone who has been listening to date. Welcome to all those new people that have decided to jump into the gaping hole that is the podcast world, or at least the Antisocial hole. Hope you enjoy it and hope you stick around for more episodes in the future, and please go back as well and check out some of the older ones. And as I said before, big thanks to everybody who has been sticking around since day dot or has been listening for a few episodes now. As always, get on iTunes, get on whatever platform that you're listening to this podcast, and if there's any way of rating or reviewing or sharing, please do so. A couple of seconds and a couple of clicks will mean a big deal for me, and hopefully get a few more listeners coming in as well. It'll also help me get some more guests in the future, which I've got quite a few in store for everybody. Just to keep the tradition going, this episode of the Antisocial Podcast is not brought to you by my Year 12 formal photo, one of a few that I have, and I'll take a photo of this and chuck it up on the Facebook page so you can have a look at this. It's it's a cheerful photo of a bunch of people that I went to school with, and me wearing an interesting choice of attire. I tended to be a bit of a pain in the ass in school and wanted to do things my own way, and I guess probably more an attention-seeking whore than anything of real meaning or purpose. I didn't like wearing suits. Didn't like wearing button-up t-shirts, so I just decided to wear I think I may have actually hired the suit jacket and the pants, but I wore a t-shirt and I tied the actual tie around my neck. Then I tucked my long pants into a pair of football socks and then wore these poo-coloured Airwalk skate shoes. At the time I thought I was pretty funny and pretty out there, but looking back, we'll leave it at that. It's quite interesting. I'm sure everyone listening who went to school, and I assume that pretty much everybody did, it's amazing all those people that you were friends with at school, and how quickly things change and people drift apart as soon as you don't have to be at the same place day in, day out for hours at a time. It's quite funny because this photo in particular, which I'll put up and I'll tag a few people in there, there's about 20 or so people in there, and out of that 20, probably about half of them I actually have on Facebook, which I wouldn't say it's surprising, it's quite good, but I'm sure everybody's in the same boat. In typical Facebook fashion, you get a lot of people that stalk and want to see what everybody's up to, but you don't really actually speak or maintain contact or anything of the sort. So you're connected in a way, but you don't really communicate at all. And for the most part, this group of people, overall, we're all pretty good people, so I've got no issues with any of them being connected. And out of all them, probably only about 4 of them I actually speak to on a semi-regular occasion. And I'll actually do a shout out in particular to the guy in the bottom left-hand corner, Zachary Smith Cameron, who is the guy who has actually designed the podcast logo. So that's a wonderful drawing of me flying through the air, holding a bass guitar and a mic and looking like I'm either ready to punch someone or kick someone's ass with my microphone or whatever. Zach put that together. Zach also did the artwork for the last few t-shirts that we've been doing, including the current tour t-shirt for the Playing to Win tour that's just started now. And he's also done the artwork for our latest EP, What Tomorrow Brings, which is a very different style of artwork that we've used in the past, but it definitely fits in quite well with the whole theme around that EP, and especially the title track. It's got a very movie poster feel to it, which is very cool. So it's cool to keep in contact with a lot of these people, but it's definitely even better when you can work together in that capacity so many years later after leaving school. So it's cool how we connected again, and Zach's been able to do a lot of work for us in the band and maintain contact, and I always throw him ideas for t-shirt designs and whatever. And the great thing is that something that would probably take me 6 months to do, he can do in about 6 minutes. So I have no issues with outsourcing that to Zach and getting him to do some stuff. I'll put some links actually in the show notes to Zach's stuff, and I actually put them in the comments for this picture as well, because he's a very talented graphic designer, a graphic artist. I'm sure I'm probably completely offending him with those titles, but just a very, very talented individual, and I'll put a bunch of his stuff in the show notes and on the comments of this picture just so you can check him out. And if there's anyone out there who's looking for artwork or looking for artwork for whether it be a music endeavor or anything in particular, he's done some artwork for some comic books, some independent comic books recently, which were really cool. So he's quite versatile and very easy to work with and great turnaround as well. So I'll definitely plug some of his stuff for everyone to check out. But I'm going to tag some of the guys in this picture. So if anyone out of the group's listening to this podcast, you'll be able to see this shocking photo put up very soon. So have a look and by all means leave some comments there as well. So once again, episode 12 of the Antisocial Podcast is not brought to you by my year 12 formal photo year. It would have been 2001. So that'll give you an indication of my age, although I'm pretty sure I've disclosed that a few times in the past. Anyway, moving along. This week's episode and guest is Michael Field. Now, Michael is an analytical chemist and works in a gold mine at a place called Norseman. Now, I really should have written this down just to give some factual information about its precise location. And I do remember that Michael actually made a comment as to where it's sort of situated, but looking at a map, and for my international friends that are listening in, probably the best starting point would be to go to Google Maps and check this out, where it is. So Norseman is Norseman, and it's situated pretty much in the middle of nowhere, but it's 3 hours south of Kalgoorlie and 3 hours north of Esperance. And it's in Western Australia. It's a very remote area. I mean, 3 hours is not too far in the grand scheme of things, but when you look at the size of the towns on either side, it's still, you may as well just say it's in the middle of nowhere. Luckily, I haven't had the pleasure of visiting Norseman, and Michael certainly paints a really good picture of what it's like to work out there. It's definitely a unique area, and I guess given the isolation, it definitely attracts different types of people, and I'm sure it'd be an interesting place to visit, but it's not high on my list. So Michael I've known for a few years. Michael's actually very, very, very good friends with Shane Bailey, who I had on the podcast a couple of episodes ago, and met Michael through Shane when Michael was based in Adelaide. And Michael's, we've been connected that way, and he's actually the creator of the Morkanandi artwork that is featured on a bunch of T-shirts that we've printed. And some of you who are listening have no doubt bought a T-shirt and have been wearing it around. And you've seen the comics that float around on Facebook as well, where it's a case of Mark, or as I should say, Mork, abusing me or giving me shit in each episode of this comic. So quite a funny thing that was put together, and Michael was the brains behind putting together the design, and then Mark and I sort of took it from there, especially Mark, who put together all the comics and sort of got the joke going. So it sort of exploded from there. But I think it was a mixture of obviously the connection that I had with Michael through Shane, but also what he does for a job is quite interesting. And I think overall, on the grand scheme of things, it is a very unique job and a very unique location. I mean, there's a lot of mining towns and areas in Western Australia and throughout the world mining various minerals, but it is still a very, very unique environment compared to most people. So it was definitely a good opportunity to have a chat to Michael while he was on break in Adelaide. And we spent quite a bit of time going through and getting an understanding of what he does for a job and what it's like to live in the middle of nowhere. I'll have a bunch of links and details of how to contact Michael in the show notes. He's got a lot of cool things that he does, and he's just put up his new photography page as well, which I'll plug that at the end of the podcast. But look, I hope you enjoy it, and as always, please pass around these episodes to everybody that you know that might be interested, and appreciate all the support. Enjoy.
Hello.
Howdy.
How's it going?
Yeah, good. Yourself?
I'm in my recliner with a beer, waiting to talk.
What are you drinking?
Little Creatures Pale Ale.
Oh, that's okay. I approve of that one. I was waiting for... What's your South Australian beer? Sourk or something like that?
Southwark, that's been talking to Mr. Bailey, I think. He's the only person in the state that drinks that still.
Actually, I forgot about that. I remember him mentioning that years ago. I just didn't even think to mention that.
I don't even know. I don't know where they make it still, because you still see it in bottle-os and you think, who the hell still buys that besides him?
Well, he's obviously buying enough to keep them going. So,
yeah. Oh, it's an acquired taste. It is nice, but you have to really be brought up on it, I think.
Yeah, from a small child.
Yeah, in the zippy cup, whatever it's called.
Straight from the teat.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. Well, at least you're drinking something of reasonable quality.
Well, that's it. Now that I can afford it, I thought, why not? I'm on holidays, I'll buy a carton of that.
Nice. And making the big bucks now out in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah, that's to put a positive spin on it, I suppose.
That was going to be one of the first things I was going to ask you, is about where you live and work, but you're moving between two places as far as living. So you're in Adelaide at the moment.
Yeah. So I have a house in Adelaide that I'm paying off, but I had this for 5 years now, and I've been at Norseman is where I work, which is really out in the middle of nowhere in Western Australia, 200 k's south of Kalgoorlie and 200 k's north of Esperance. The long Nullarbor Highway sort of meets up with it. If you ever drive across the Nullarbor, you have to go through Norseman.
What's the travel time for you to get there from Adelaide?
Oh, well, I've driven it once. I bought a car here and drove it back, and it was about 2,000 k's from here. So I did that in 2 days.
And so what do you do now? Do you fly back to Perth first?
Yeah, I have to drive to Kalgoorlie. There's an airport there.
Yeah.
And I was going to say I leave my car there in the car park of the airport. But no, it's surrounded by vicious dogs. If anyone's listening.
Yeah, the swarms of Kalgoorlie listeners who'll be tuning in, no doubt. Yeah.
If anyone's really that hard up that they need to steal a '98 Falcon, then good luck to them.
Oh, they've probably got bigger concerns in their life anyway. So good on them if they manage to grab it. Yeah.
Well, they're probably, with the sort of cars that are in that car park, they probably steal the SSV Commodore next to it.
Yeah, something a bit more upmarket.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of upmarket out there, I tell you. There's ridiculous cars driving around. You think, why have you got this out here? Totally non-suited.
I think there's a Volkswagen dealer out in Kalgoorlie. We deal with them every once in a while out that way. And I mean, I've only been out there once, which was this year when you came over and saw us play. And it's pretty much like any other country town, really. I mean, it's reminded me of Broken Hill, but it's definitely middle of nowhere, though. The
only reason it's there is because of that super pit. And I mean, it's been there a while, but it's a goldfields hub. It's the biggest city sort of out in that area. So it's like a Newcastle or somewhere like that. It's not a major capital city, but it's pretty big for where it is. But it's where all the shops are. So, when I have my break from work, I usually drive to there or to Esperance on one of the days just to go shopping for food. They're really limited in Norseman.
What's the population of Norseman?
I think at the moment it's about 200.
Oh, right. Jeez.
But, in its heyday, it was about 2,000.
Yeah.
When the mine was really cranking there. But, it's shut down about 4 times. It's had a heap of different owners. And in the last shutdown, there was about 2,000 people in the town. And, overnight it dropped down to about what it is now. It's 200. They just all left.
So, I mean, apart from, where your dwellings, where you actually live when you're there, what else is in that area? There must be, like, bugger all.
There's a pub.
Of course.
There's an IGA, I would say small to medium size. Like it's bigger than I thought it would be, but it's really expensive. There's 2 servos, the BP. A hot tip for listeners, ever going through Norseman, don't go to the BP. Go right round the corner, there's a Cowtex. It's 10 cents cheaper fuel and better hamburgers.
The locals tip.
Yeah, well, the BP is just massive. It's one of those, really huge BP service stations to cater for trucks and everything, whereas the Cowtex is your normal size little service station, basically. But people don't see it because they're going to Perth. Usually they'll turn right at Norseman, and that takes them away from the Cowtex.
So it's not on the main drag as you're going through. Take a turn off that drag. Yeah,
it's literally 200 metres around the corner from the BP. But unless you're going to Esperance, you'll never see it. But it's cheaper and it has better food. I've been burnt twice from buying stuff at the BP. It's just third time's just not going to happen.
Well, they say once bitten, twice shy, or something like that.
Well, it's like I went there when I first got to Norseman. I went there for lunch one day because I had no food or anything where I was staying. So So I went in and I bought like a sausage roll, 4 dim sims, and an iced coffee. You know, how much do you think that would cost?
Oh, geez, I've got no idea.
Yeah, not $29. $29. You know, you look at the woman serving you with your face of, are you fucking serious? And they just sort of give you this wry smile back, like, yeah, go somewhere else. I dare you.
Yeah, that's right. Where are you going to go? Yeah, got the monopoly.
Like, damn it. Yeah, but it is the goldfields, and you do get screwed on every purchase you make out there because they just assume everyone's rich, and they're not far wrong, but they certainly do take the piss a lot.
I remember, like friends of mine. I don't know where they were working in WA, but it was cheaper for them to live in Perth and fly out of Perth and work there, and then fly back to Perth afterwards because. The local housing and everything, rent and everything was just ridiculous. It was just absolutely so expensive.
Well, before I was there, I went for an interview a year and a bit ago to a place called Onslow, which is way up north of Western Australia on the coast. Like, you're just at the little nosy bit of Western Australia. It's right there.
Yeah.
It's nearly the westernmost part of Australia, like the westernmost town. Actually, it might be. Google it, somebody. Let us know in the comments. It's like Karratha. You might know Karratha.
Yeah, yeah.
It's 350 k's south of Karratha.
Oh, so just down the road.
And the rents there, like a house there costs a couple of $1 million for just a crappy little house.
Whew.
And rents were anything from $1,500 to $2,000 a week, I think.
Wow. So it must be just because. Is it the same mentality as what you're saying before? They just assume that everybody that's up there is loaded and they just jack the price up. But it can't be. Yeah. I mean, is it on the coast?
Yeah, it's right on the coast. It was actually apparently a submarine refueling station in the war.
Oh, right.
And a whaling station before that. But it is really, like, you fly into Karratha, you jump on the highway heading south, and you drive for 250 k's without turning, and then take a right and drive for another 150 to get to the coast.
Wow.
And the only reason you're there is to work. I mean, when I was there, Chevron is a big American fuel and gas company that's sort of building all these gas plants out in that area.
Mm.
And they had literally flown in another suburb for Onslow and just, winched it down from helicopter and screwed it into place, and there was a whole new 200-house suburb for all the people working at this gas station. And they're monstrous too. There's like 2,000 people building it, and when it's operational, there's maybe 400 people there to work at it.
Yeah.
Just this huge pipe monstrosity, like a Mad Max film, one of these huge things. It's just sucking gas out of the ground, basically.
It's it had to be just a completely different world to anywhere else in the country. I mean, well, a lot of Western Australia is probably like that in general, with all the mining and industry over there. But for anybody who's just sort of lived on the east coast of Australia, you just, for the most part, would not even be able to comprehend half of the way that people, have to live over there, and just that type of commute of flying in, flying out, and the people that do manage to stay there, must be pretty bloody brain dead when you're not working.
Well, that's just before I came. Like, I've been home here since last Wednesday, going back this coming Wednesday. So I just did a 24-day shift to cover. Like, I work in the chemistry lab on the mine. They're doing all the analytics for the mill. So we're milling gold there. We're only mining gold. So we get all the sampling from all the tenements that they're working at the mine. The mine's currently got something like 100 tenements, but we're only working about 4 of them. That's all we've got.
What is it? A tenement?
A tenement's like you remember in the old Wild West, you stake your claim, that this bit of land's mine, and
okay,
come on it, your varmint, and I'll shoot you dead, type thing.
Yeah.
They're now just called tenements. So
gotcha.
Like Norseman has the mine is pretty much the centre of our tenement map, and then it goes out all over east, north, east, west, south from Norseman, and there's easily 100 of them at the moment. Like, I've got a map in my lab that shows us where all the tenements are, because people go out searching for gold there, not prospecting. Like, they have bit of science behind it, where they're most likely going to find some, but there's easily 100. But because it's gold and it's on the stock market, the mines department of WA gives you permission to mine your tenements, only a few at a time, because, if we were mining all 100, we could just flood the market with gold.
Yeah, then just the value of it would just plummet. Yeah, okay.
Which is what China did in the start of the year. You might have seen on the news that they were getting shitty that the iron ore price was still high and they didn't want to pay that much. So they just dumped a heap of gold onto the international market, and it basically wiped 33% of the gold price off in Australia.
What a bunch of assholes.
Yeah, well, it was pure arsehole. That's all it was.
Yeah.
There was no reason to do it other than that they could. So, and bring down the...
I was just going to say the Chinese powerhouse.
Yeah, well, it's a big country with a lot of resources itself, but it's just known for, pumping out plastic crap at $1, $1 a piece that the Western nations just buy up because we can't manufacture it with that cheap ourselves. And, I mean, they've got the workforce too, 1 billion people plus in the one country that fits, twice in Australia or whatever.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. They've bought up a lot of the mines in Australia, or they're starting to anyway.
This is what everybody's power Tony Abbott was doing with this free trade agreement with China. I'm not sure, being stuck out there, I'm not up on current events as most people would be. But
just a heads up, Abbott's no longer our Prime Minister.
Yeah. Yeah, I found that out the other day.
Oh, yeah. Good.
No, I have a few people that I'm regularly in contact with out there that tell me when something exciting goes on, which usually just involves the Bachelor or the Bachelorette. But,
the top events, the top current events.
Yeah. Oh, I did hear, seriously, when Tony Abbott got the arse, I didn't hear it till 2 days later.
Yeah, right.
Because, we, like you're saying, it's a different world out there working. Like, everyone thinks it's all high wages and fun and games, I suppose. It's brutal hours. Like, the hourly rates are no different to yours or mine when I worked in Adelaide. It's just you're doing so many more hours than anybody else, and that's where the high wages come from.
Yeah.
Because basically there's nothing else out there to do. You wake up and you work till the sun goes down, then you go home and go to sleep.
And it probably works out better, considering there's nothing to do out there. It's probably just easier to work the extra hours to just get through the day.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I've been here sitting at home trying to sleep in, and I just can't.
Yeah.
I go to sleep. I'm staying up later because I'm talking to friends on the internet. When it works, my internet here at home's been broken.
Yeah.
Since I got home, it's been 5 months since I've been home. So
yeah,
I came in and said, internet, and sit down at my computer. The computer wouldn't start. So the power, what's it called, the thing that you stick the power cord in in the computer, that had burnt out.
Oh, right.
Power supply, I suppose you call it.
Yeah.
That thing, when I was living in Adelaide previously, and Melbourne before that, and I've always lived in major cities, so this was my first foray out into regional Australia, I suppose you'd say. I was fairly up with computer technology, a bit like your mate Tim, like my gadgets. But, the one conversation I've had with Tim was all about gadgetry. So.
And that's definitely his forte. If you want to win his heart over, you just start talking tech. Anyway, he won't stop.
I thought that was once at that bar we go to after your Adelaide gigs, Enigma, Beer Tower Bar, whatever it's called. Yep. Somebody got stabbed there the other night, I think.
Oh, really? Oh, that's Hyman Street for you.
Yeah. He was there. He'd just got a new phone, and I said, is that the new so-and-so? And he was like, big smile. Yes, it is. Come and have a look at this. I was like, yeah. But
6 hours later.
Most of the time, Tim just scares me. So. Keep away from him. He's very, like, because I always see him before a gig mainly.
Yeah.
And he's so laser focused that you don't want to disturb him, and then afterwards he just disappears.
Yeah, well, usually, before a show, he'll be the first to admit it. He's not the most social of people anyway, on a good day. But before a show, his mind's elsewhere, and if people try and bail him up, he's usually pretty short, and you can tell he's distracted and whatnot. And then afterwards, he goes and hides for a while. I guess coming down after it all. But then I don't know. Depends on where we are and who's out and whatnot. He might come out afterwards, or he just goes and hides back at the hotel room and tinkers around on his phone or whatever he's got. So, but
he didn't have Mark there at Kalgoorlie to entertain us afterwards.
Well, that's it. I mean, it kind of worked out. I mean, it was a bit annoying not having him there, but it was a bit of a blessing in disguise because I didn't drink, and I was able to drive that van back at 6 a.m. the next morning back to Perth. So it worked out quite well.
As good as you guys are too, you did sort of get your ass handed to you that night too by Kimura.
Oh yeah, you were pretty impressed by them, weren't you?
Oh, they were so good.
Yeah.
Well, they just played. I don't think they played any gigs till about the 10th. I saw they had a gig on the 10th in Perth.
Yeah.
But geez, they were good.
Yeah, it was.
Like, I don't just buy merch off anyone at a gig. You have to really impress me to get me to buy the merch.
Well, it was weird how we hooked up with those guys because we were trying to get this show in Kalgoorlie, and we were dealing directly with the pub that we were playing at, and we had a couple of people locally that lived in town, and we're trying to get an idea of what local bands are out there, and the one or two bands that were out there weren't available, and then they sort of recommendations started coming from those guys for other bands that had relocated to Perth and had ex-Kalgoorlie locals in the band, and so we went through about 3 or 4 bands and eventually got to these guys, and so it was basically a referral of about 6 different people to get to this band. And I mean, definitely not a style of music that, is a normal compliment to us. But, I mean, we tend to
not... They certainly brought their A game, though, didn't they?
They were great. They were really good.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we've always sort of played with bands of various genres, and especially the heavier stuff as well, because... It's just, I mean, if we stuck to playing with, melodic bands or power metal bands, we'd be playing to 10 people every show. So,
well, that's it. Yeah, I would say they were more the metalcore and you were more power metal on that night.
Yeah.
So 2 different styles, but, even with the Screamo frontman, they were tight and they had some catchy riffs going.
They did I think they did a Sepultura cover as well, I think, off the top of my head. I can't remember, but,
Well, I got their EP from the gig there, and I put it. Unfortunately, it's really no offense to those guys, but it's really badly recorded.
Okay.
It just sounds awful off the CD, and they've got another one that they've just finished. I was talking to the guy about that. I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
Too long ago, and he's saying, this one would be better. They've had it like professionally mixed, so I think they might have done the EP all themselves. It sounds all right, but it needs a lot of production, more production than it had. But live they were certainly killer.
We'll have to. I'll put some links on if anyone's curious to check them out. But they're really nice guys. I mean, they. He
was so impressed when I went up after and said, "God, that was fantastic. Well done." He's like, thanks a lot. Yeah. Really means a lot. I mean, it's probably the same for any band. If someone comes and tells you that they just enjoyed what you did.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. It never gets old. I mean, especially when it's somebody that you don't recognise or you haven't, or especially in a place that you potentially haven't played before either, it definitely helps. Because it was 2 of the guys out of the band that used to live in Kalgoorlie, so they managed to drag a couple of mates out as well. But the rest of the guys were all Perth based, and I mean, they're really nice guys. It'd be interesting to see what they do next. So I haven't seen anything about the new CD, but I'll have a look and find a link so people can check it out.
It's either coming out very soon. I think they've finished it. They're just having it mastered and stuff. But yeah, they're on Facebook, Kimura, Kimura, for people that are listening. Give them a listen if you like. You sort of screamo metalcore, but it's really catchy tunes, and it takes a bit to impress me. I'm a bit of a musical snob, I suppose, just because I've listened to so much of it. But they really impressed me that night. And give them some love on Facebook. I'm sure they'd like it.
I'm sure they'll be quite impressed with the plug.
Yeah.
There you go. You're doing your good deed.
I had a list of things, companies I was going to plug if they came up. But,
Sounds good. Sounds good. I was just going to go back to what you actually do in Norseman. You work as a chemist?
Yeah, so we've got a small analytical lab there where the mill, there's a processing mill, so any rocks or stuff or ore they find with gold, they bring it, truck it in with the huge mining trucks that everyone's seen on TV. Yeah. They truck it into the mill and they run all this rock, crush it up down to as fine as they can get it, run it through the mill and extract all the gold out of the rock with a process. You may have seen pictures of mills. There's usually 6 or so huge tanks. We've got ours about maybe 100,000, 150,000 litres per tank.
Yeah.
And the mill processes about 1,000 tonnes of rock a day.
Cool.
So, if there's 1 gram of gold per tonne in the rock you're processing, you'll get a kilogram of gold out of it, which is, a kilogram of gold's close to $1 million of Australian money.
It's not bad.
So, gold's still by the ounce. Whenever you see it on TV, it's usually around $1,500 Australia per ounce, which I think is 32 grams or something. So it makes a lot of money very quickly, but you have to find the rocks that's viable to bring. One, if you mine out, like Norseman Mine's got open pit mining, like the super pit in Kalgoorlie that you saw, and there's also underground mining where they're tunnelled down into the earth. So the current Norseman underground's about 20 levels, and they each run between 10 and 15 kilometres north-south out of Norseman.
Right.
So it's a pretty big ant's nest under there, and I don't think it's been going for 138 years, I think. So they're still finding gold there.
Sure, you'd have to have some pretty decent danger money for working in the underground mines.
Yeah, I'm just sort of having to watch what I say because I'm not sure. I'm not sure who's going to hear this, but I'm sure I'll tell people that I've been interviewed and can't really. Yeah, there's things happen. I suppose I can say things happen out there that people are very lucky to walk away from, and not often, but when things go wrong, they can go really wrong.
I guess it's an extreme. It's definitely an extreme job and extreme elements and circumstances.
Well, mine's fairly benign in that I'm just outside of Norseman, the town, and we do the same thing day after day. So we're not going down into the pits or underground. Like I've been there a year and a bit now. I haven't even been down underground yet. So I keep asking the geologist, when are you taking me underground? He's a Papua New Guinean guy. He's like, oh, yeah, next weekend. And then he'll go home for the weekend, something.
How often would you find, when you're going through with the rock coming through, how often would you find, just traces of gold? Would that be something?
Oh, daily.
Yeah, right.
So there's a couple of stages of looking for gold, I'd say. There's the first stage called costining, where a group will go out with just a normal digger, and a front end loader, and they'll dig trenches and they'll test along the trench looking for surface gold, because the reality of gold is it's been there forever. already, like when the planet formed.
Yeah.
And it's more than likely not at the surface unless there's some sort of, seismic event like a earthquake, which we don't have many of, or something like that. So most of the gold isn't at the surface, but if you find some at the surface, there's a good chance that deeper down there's a lot more.
Gotcha.
Because it leaches down. Being one of the heaviest elements on the planet, it falls towards the centre of the planet with little help. So there's that, digging trenches looking for gold. If they get a hit there, they might make a pit there if it's big enough. But yeah, we constantly see from underground, they're digging in the underground mine at the face of a gold seam, so they're following the seams underground.
Okay.
So they'll come back from anything from a couple of grams per tonne. The biggest we've seen is 3.5 kilos per tonne.
Wow.
So yeah, anything in between there. And then the only thing I have to worry about then is how many tonnes of ore that rich in gold there is. So,
is it something that you would only discover the gold once it's gone through this whole process of checking it and going through it all, or would it be like, sometimes the guys who are down there will actually be able to see it?
Yeah, well, there's the whole science of geology behind it. So they look for certain types of rock, and like most of the rock will be in quartz, like the white marbly stuff that you see. So most of the rock out there is quartz mixed with basalt, basalt's that black, really hard rock that they sometimes use it for asphalt. But yeah, where those two sort of mix as molten rock years ago or whenever, that's where they're coming together is where you're most likely to find the gold, because it's being carried with the molten rock. And when it cools, you get these seams of gold. And sometimes we get rocks in and we crush them up, and you can see the gold in it. It's visible gold there, and every time you see it, you're like, holy shit, that's a lot of gold. Or if you're like me, it's like, at least this one won't be zero when I test it for gold later, which is always good. So, we just did drilling. They go out with drill rigs and drop holes 150 metres deep and bring the sampling, take a sample every metre and bring it back, and you can do, hundreds of metres of drilling and hit nothing. And, when it takes all day for you to prepare 50 samples and all of them are zero, you begin to get a bit sick of doing it after a while.
I can imagine. Definitely. Yeah. Is it with, because obviously you're digging up a lot of rock, and the ratio of rock to gold is quite substantial as far as, it's a very small ratio. All that other rock, and as you said, you got basalt and these other, and what was the other one? Quartz. Is that stuff shipped and sold off as well?
No, I don't know if you've seen a photo I've taken in Northern. There's this huge mountain there, like a man-made mountain. That's the result of the milling process from the last 40 years.
Oh, right.
It's basically pulverised rock down, like by the mill. There's a big jaw crusher, which is just these two huge plates that the rocks just fall in, and it just pneumatically crushes it down to smaller rocks.
Yeah.
And then that goes down into the mill. There's a thing called a sag mill, which is basically just a huge tube full of ball bearings.
Yeah.
Of, ranging from 10-pin bowling ball size down to cricket ball size and smaller. And then the rocks just are rolled around in that like all day to crush them up to a fine powder. And then the powder's mixed with water. And this slurry's pumped up to those tanks I mentioned before.
Yep. And
that's then mixed with cyanide and lime to raise the pH to make the extraction of the gold easier, I suppose. Because as you probably don't know, but gold is one of the least reactive elements in the universe.
Okay.
It's very, very, very stable as a chemical.
Yeah.
Well, not as a chemical, as an element.
Yeah.
Because it's why it's so valuable for jewelry and stuff like that. And over the centuries of human beings, it's all, in every culture, it's come up to the top of the list of most valuable stuff, simply because it's rare, relatively rare, and you could take a lump of gold and put it on the shelf and come back in 2 million years, it's still there.
Yeah, right.
As gold, whereas there's not many elements that do that. And there's basically only three. There's silver, gold, and platinum. So they're the three metals that are ridiculously expensive simply because of their chemical properties of being stable. So, and like if you make a gold necklace out of gold, it's still a gold necklace in 100 years' time.
Yeah, yeah. It's incredible. So but, as you said, it gets to that point where it mixes, was it to raise the pH level? Yeah,
so that's just lime.
Yep.
So same stuff you put in your garden. It just makes the liquid more basic.
Yep.
Because what happened in history, like the gold, as I was saying, it's been a valuable asset for as long as history has been written, I suppose. The Romans first came up with a way of dissolving it to work with it a bit better. They invented this stuff called aqua regia, which you may have heard of.
I've heard of, yeah.
Yeah, it's a mixture of nitric acid, like concentrated nitric acid and concentrated hydrochloric acid. So you don't want to gargle the stuff, but it basically, that was the only way that we knew of dissolving gold to get it to react so that we could do something with it or, purify it and isolate it from everything else. So the Romans used to do that and dissolve up money or gold that they wanted to transport to another city, just put it in barrels and in, what are they called, gourds or whatever. Probably is gourd. There's my Asterix comics coming back. The gourds, and they'd fill up these gourds with this aqua regia with the gold dissolved in it.
Yeah.
And truck it hundreds and thousands of miles by horse and cart, and bandits would stop them looking for gold or anything of value in their cart. There'd just be this liquid that, if they tasted it, burn their mouth off, basically. So, yeah, for, however long it was before people caught on, they could transport gold with impunity, basically.
Yeah.
And to get it out, you just tip that aqua regia into seawater, I think was all they did, a barrel of seawater, and you get a huge blob of gold coming out.
It's incredible.
Yeah, so, but, the process has improved somewhat from 0 BC. And nowadays we use cyanide to make a complex with the gold in water, and it dissolves each atom of gold, and it's about 100% efficient if you can get enough cyanide in there, which isn't a problem usually. But it's sort of the reason the mills are where they are too, because cyanide's just toxic as hell. You don't want to gargle that either. So
don't put it in a beer jar.
No, it's it's very toxic, and everyone's heard from James Bond films or spy films of people taking a cyanide capsule.
Yep.
It really does kill you that quickly. So I use, in the lab, we do the same extraction, just on a smaller scale. So while the mill's processing 1,000 tonnes of rock a day, we're doing we've got a machine that does 52 assays. I know Shane Bailey's now doing his Jimmy Smiths at me. I don't understand. Every time I talk about doing gold assays, like on Facebook or anything, he'll post a photo of Jimmy Smith. Just because it's like, Este, Hispanic. It does make me laugh. It never gets old. Especially when he photoshopped him onto, we get these tubs of cyanide tablets that we use for the assay, and he photoshopped Jimmy Smith onto the label and stuck it back on. That made me laugh.
He's, I got to say, he's one creative person. Actually, between the both of you, you should really form your own empire with graphic design and.
I went to his shop on Thursday last week, and I walk in. I'm like, Shane, how you going? And I look over, and he's sitting on his laptop. He's photoshopping the head of a dog onto a lady and the lady's head onto the dog. And, I didn't think anything of it. It was just normal.
Just Shane.
Yeah. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, photoshopping this dog's head on this woman. I'm like, fair enough. sort of stuff that goes on.
Oh man!
But,
sorry, not to go off on too much of a tangent, but just some of the things that he was telling me about all of the Nigerian scam stuff, because I know you told me to bring that up with him, and to some of the extents that he was doing all this online sort of reverse scamming stuff was just incredible. So he certainly gets creative, that's for sure.
I mentioned that to him, like when I went to the shop, he was saying, that he did an interview with you a few days before, and he was a bit dark about it. But like he goes, and he said that he talked to you, and I sort of like put my hands up and said, and what did he say that I told you? I didn't tell him anything bad. Like I was quite relaxed, and he says, I told him to ask you to ask me about something which may come up later on.
Did he give you a hint of what that would be?
Yeah,
okay.
One thing.
Yeah.
And I just said, well, I can't. What am I meant to say? I don't even remember it. So
okay.
I'm just going to say, I know it happened.
Oh, so. Well, I've got that right at the end, so I'll throw that in at the end and see if we're on the same wavelength. He didn't give me any context at all. I went, okay. Well,
this is the thing. I can't either. I just, as an enjoyer of the amber liquid yourself, there's certain times where you have a lot of it, and people tell you the next day what happened, and you just have to put your hand up and go, okay.
Well, I guess being a chemist yourself, you'd probably understand, the mixture of certain chemicals and volumes of it and whatnot, and the reactions that come of it. So
well, we'll talk about that later.
We'll touch on that later. Yeah. You were talking about these. What do you call them? Assays.
Assays. So an assay is just you're trying to quantify how much of something is in something else.
Yeah.
So you do an assay. So we do a gold assay. We've got this machine that some amazingly clever guy up in Queensland invented a few years back, which basically miniaturises the whole mill, and it does the exact same reaction but does 52 assays at once, which really is helpful because there's so many samples. We had a backlog just a few weeks ago of nearly 2,000 samples where we just couldn't keep up with what's coming in, which was like we knew they were coming, but I don't want to bag the place I work too much, but we had staffing issues for the whole time I've been there, basically. It was basically one person doing everything in the lab.
Yeah.
And got to the point where, I'm usually a nice guy, but I just got to the end of my tether. Took a year, and I was like, stuff this. I'm just going to give back. Give back to the community. So, because mining is, it's a multi-tiered sort of undertaking, I suppose you'd say. And by that I mean the educational levels of people throughout the whole industry are from, there's some of the dumbest people you'll ever meet, but there's also some really smart people. And it's top, it's heavy at one end of that scale, the top that I will leave to your imagination. So it's basically skills-based. It's very much like the building industries and stuff, where if you've got the ticket for driving a truck or driving something else or using a crane, those sort of people are invaluable, but they're not usually the sharpest tools in the shed.
I was going to ask you later on, but this is probably a good quick little tangent to go off. Given that you've got probably a population of roughly 200 people in town, and a lot of people have to stay out there for long periods of time, if you've got a large section of those people described as you said before in their downtime, I'm sure that things get a little bit loopy out that way.
Yeah, well, when I first moved there, I was thrown in the mix with all of these people that, you've never met people like this.
Yeah, right, okay.
If you come from a major city, you haven't met people that work out in the mine. And most of them are career miners. They've either grown up out there or, they haven't needed any qualifications from unis, or some of them not even high school, but they've just worked their way through the ranks, I suppose you'd say, and they have a lot of experience in whatever they're good at, but a lot of them have no people skills at all. Right. The first place I went to work, there was this guy there, and I struggled to believe that someone that grotesque could exist. I kid you not, he was just like I struggled to comprehend that he had to have had a mother who would be absolutely horrified. Like if I acted like this guy, my mother would be horrified. And just the dregs of humanity, really.
Is it what, just his mannerisms or his outlook on life, or just a bit of everything? Yeah.
Well, I could tell you a story. Like I hadn't met him before, and he tells me a story, and I'm not. It's not pretty. I don't know if you want me to recant it here.
Yeah.
Okay. It revolves around the bustling metropolis of Meekatharra.
Okay.
Which is infamous in Kevin Bloody Wilson songs and things like that.
Yep. Okay.
Meekatharra is a lot like Kalgoorlie. It's a regional centre, but the region is incredibly sparse, and Meekatharra would be as big as Norseman, where I am. It's basically central Western Australia, like smack bang in the centre.
Okay.
He's saying, there's 2 pubs there, and like most of these towns have a really big Aboriginal problem.
Yeah.
Like the Aboriginals get a lot of welfare, like a lot, and they don't have to do anything for it, and a lot of them take this for granted, and they're drunk pretty much 24/7 and cause a lot of problems for a lot of people. So this guy was saying, I was at the pub in Meekatharra and there was this Aboriginal girl there and she was pretty hot.
Yeah.
And he's saying, so I started buying her drinks because a lot of the pubs won't serve the Aboriginals. After there's a lot of drinking laws out there specifically targeted to stop them drinking for at least a couple of hours a day.
Yeah.
So this guy's going, I was buying her drinks and slipping them to her, and then she got really drunk and I dragged her off and we were heading back to his flat or whatever he's living in. And he's like, I was going to get lucky. But then she was so drunk she just passed out and just fell, flat on her face on the pavement. And he's like, I'd spent like $50 on alcohol for her, so, I just lifted up her dress and away I went.
Oh.
I'm like, really?
Wow.
Yeah. And that's a special type of person right there.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And then, his topics of conversation was sort of how many times he could wank himself in a 24-hour period. And
this is someone you work with?
Yeah. And I had to, had to interact with this guy on a human level when he was just scraping above the human level mark.
Oh.
And was just...
Is this just someone who's, as you said before, like an example of like somebody who's just sort of grown up in these sort of areas all their life, and that's just it. That's just life for them.
I can't really give you specifics. I didn't know him that well. He's the sort of person. I remember saying to someone, if I saw him back in the world of civilization, I would steer clear, so far clear of him.
Yeah, right.
Because he was just abhorrent. He really was.
Wow.
Just disgusting in every sense of the word. And there's a lot of people like this out there. So the workforce for mining is very fluid. Like there's a lot of ebb and flow of workers. So where I am, there's probably 100 people that work at the mill. I could name probably 5 that are still there from when I started. So there's a lot of people come and go because everybody's on like casual contracts. Nobody's got any job security at all. Yeah. Like I could get back there on Wednesday and they say, we don't need you, go back home.
Yeah, right.
And like half of me would be like, woohoo! And the other half would be like, no.
Shit, I've got to find more work. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't live in the camp in Norseman. I kicked and screamed basically because I was working somewhere else and got headhunted to go there and promised. A big thing I've found out since working there is you get promised the earth.
Yeah.
And then nothing delivered. So, I left a really good job to go there when they said they would match the deal, and I'd got nothing matched at all. Hence, I'm stuck there most of the time. So I kicked and screamed and got a house. So I've got a little house out. It's like the furthest house out of the town, actually. But
a little bit of peace and quiet away from your mates.
Yeah. So I deal with them on a professional level daily, and I have got a few people there that I would call my friends, but you could count them on one hand.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the rest of them, you just don't want to. You deal with them in business hours, so to speak, and. Then, like, for instance, my phone, there's a very few people that live and work with me that can call me after 6 p.m.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the phone just shuts everybody out except for my allowed list, and that's basically the people I work directly with in the lab, my boss and my family members. Everyone else is like, yeah, see you at breakfast. I don't want to know you for the rest of the... And the same with when I have my days off. It's 5. I do a 9 and 5 roster normally, so 9 days straight and then 5 days off straight.
Yeah.
And some of the days I don't even leave the house because there is nothing to do there. I can't. People just think, oh, surely there's something. There is nothing. Nothing at all. Like I said before, there's a pub and a supermarket.
Yeah.
And 200 kilometres north or south to the next town. Because I like, you've probably seen the photos that I take.
Yeah.
Every now and again. That's the one plus out there, is that the night sky out there is just amazing. You just can't even describe it to someone. You have to see it like once in your life. Just go out to the middle of nowhere and just look at the sky.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I thought about before going out to Kalgoorlie, was just to be able to get to a spot where you could just really see it. And by the time we got there, we literally got there in the afternoon, as you know, and played the show, and then went back, early hours of the morning to where we were staying, and then off we're go and 3 or 4 hours later, and that was it. So
even Kalgoorlie's too much light.
Yeah, well, that's it, because I remember looking up in the sky out there and just went, there's too much light. That's like when there's you follow the moon phases. When there's a new moon, like there's no moon at all, it's completely eclipsed in the Earth's shadow. So there's no moon in the sky. You can be driving in Norseman, turn off your car lights, you literally can't see anything but the stars and trees. It is that dark, and it's just amazing what you can see when there's no light pollution around. It's just amazing. Well, it's no wonder people get so shut off from the bigger picture and get so self-absorbed in their lives, and people that are, especially from a religious point of view and whatnot, and think that there's nothing more than what's here now and you God or whatever. And because half the time most of these people are living in a metro area or in a town where it's all light pollution. So I think if we didn't have the lights and everyone looked up in the sky a bit more and noticed what was above us, then they'd probably take a step back and calm down a little bit.
I'll give you to put on this on the comments for this. I'll give you a photo that I took right next to my house, and it's got the Southern Cross, which most people can see. In the cities, you can probably see that because it's quite bright. It's got the Southern Cross and then the Magellan Cloud of the Milky Way behind it.
Oh, right.
And it's just like, it's my phone background. It's that good.
It's a good shot when it
my friend out there, I had a friend out there, she's gone now, French girl, that took this photo basically the same place where mine's from, but geez, hers is fantastic. And she sometimes uploads stuff to National Geographic because she likes photography, and I'd always liked it. It is a very expensive hobby, and so I just thought, I've got the money, I'll drop the coin, because I'd always wanted to do it.
Yeah. And
you take these photos, and after the first one that comes out, you just say, I don't care what this costs, it's worth it, because they're just that impressive.
Yeah. You should look to do something with your photos one day then.
Yeah, well, I'm looking at getting them printed. Like, I would love to have a few of them up at my house. My house is very sparse except for all my degrees on the wall. Yeah, some of them are that good. And people have said, you should make a calendar, and I'd buy it, and so would 50 of my friends. And so, it's definitely something to look at. Yeah. It's just the place where I am, it's not really feasible.
Oh, yeah.
It's very isolated.
Yeah.
So, and like when we were talking about doing this, I was saying, can you wait till I'm back in Adelaide, because there's no internet to speak of, really. It's all wireless, which is sporadic, and it really is isolated. And that's the thing people probably don't understand about the FIFO people or the mining community, is they're cut off for a long periods of time, and the isolation does get to. And I was the same. I didn't realise before I went there. Like, you hear about saying, this guy that was a FIFO fly in, fly out for those playing at home, they got so depressed they committed suicide. And you're like, and people just go, what's there to be upset about? You're earning shit tons of cash, and you've got a good job that pays a lot, but you literally get that stuff. So you get a high wage and you get a job for a lot of years, but at the expense of everything else in your life. There's
no work-life balance. It's just a work balance.
There's none.
That's it.
That's exactly it. The the price you pay for that salary is it is not worth it. That's coming. Like I'm currently doing it.
Yeah.
The stuff you have to give up in order to get it, it really. I can't do it for my whole life. I really can't.
Yeah.
I can't do it for much longer, but, while it's on offer, you just sort of have to find your own way of dealing with it, because the isolation is a killer.
Well, I think when you live in a major city, or, at least a populated area, you sort of, you tend to rely on other people to keep you engaged and entertained and fulfilled and whatnot. And I think when you put into an area of, like, as you said, like just extreme isolation to a degree, you've really got to look back inwards and find tools that you can use yourself, where you have to rely on yourself to keep yourself sane and content and mindful and whatnot. And so it's not an easy thing.
On one hand, I'm luckily able to do that because I'm single and have been for the majority of my life, basically. A lot of my hobbies, just out of pure necessity, don't need someone else. So, but I've had relationships in the past where that's become an issue. I think that I can have fun without anybody there, and I'm so used to not having to worry about someone else, I suppose you say, or that sort of relationship dynamic I haven't grown up with. Mm-hmm. So I've been single for a long periods of time in between relationships that didn't last nearly as long as just the singleness. But on the flip side of that is it takes it really to the extreme. Like, I'm used to doing stuff by myself, but out there you're really by yourself. There's a handful of people that you would call friends, and they can leave at any time. So it's like long-lasting friendships are really hard to forge out there, because you're not sure if you'll be there in a week or they'll be there in a week, or and everybody's very standoffish and very guarded, I suppose, and brutally, not honest, I'd say, but just brutal arsehole-ishness, I suppose.
It's probably easier for a lot of people just to act like that than try and break down the walls a bit and get to know other people.
The crap I had to deal with my friend, the French girl. Like, she was a young, good-looking French girl, and she just copped it from all sides, because it's virtually an estrogen wasteland out there. There's for every 1,000 guys there might be one girl, and if she dares stick her head up in the male-dominated world of mining, they're just treated like pieces of meat, basically.
Yeah.
Walking vaginas is a term I've heard bantered around, and. I'm certainly wasn't brought up in that way to see women as that sort of, but that is the purveying attitude out there. There's a lot of people just say exactly what they're thinking when they really shouldn't.
Yeah.
But no one's ever told them not to until. So I've had people talking about me that I had no idea who they were. Overhear them talking about me in the mess hall, and I'm just like, you just can't believe that they're that brazen, and it's simply because they just don't give a fuck. Right, yeah. It's a hard career, and you have to really, you either have to really want to be there, or you actually need to be there for some reason. Much like me, I was out there purely for financial reasons. So I had to claw my way back from financial ruin, and now that I'm not there anymore, thank goodness, that I can sort of look at easing my way, transitioning out of it, I suppose, is what I'd say I was doing.
I think, even from the financial side, or putting that aside, no doubt when you get to the end of your time there's probably still a lot of things that have been beneficial, regardless of how extreme and challenging the whole environment's been.
Well, I don't know if it makes you more or less tolerant of people. I think I've definitely become less tolerant, but that's mainly with the people I was forced to work with, who are just. There's seriously a lot of people. Again, I don't know how much I can say here, but there's a lot of people that they're just collecting a paycheck. That's all they're doing.
Yeah.
They've been there so long they don't feel like they have to do anything.
Yeah.
They're just the furniture, and everything's so hard. Anything you want to do your job properly, it's basically luck whether you get it or not. Whether the management wants to help you. So luckily, the lab is sort of crucial to the running of the mine. So when we want stuff, we ask for it. It may take up to a year to get it, but it will eventually come. It's no joke. It took us a year to get this like the samples that come in, we have to dry them because if they're wet, it affects the assay result, obviously. So we had to get this oven. There's these industrial scale ovens, and we needed one. We asked for it and asked for it and asked for it, and it finally came earlier this year, about May it came, but we'd been asking for it since May the year before. So everything takes it eventually gets done, but only when it affects someone directly, in management.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. No, I think it's probably the same in a lot of other industries, but probably a little bit more extreme in yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just lost it the other week because, I don't know, you might have seen on Facebook, I said I had a worker that within an hour managed to knock themselves out and put themselves in hospital.
Oh, no, I missed that one.
So I've been working pretty much by myself in the lab, and the output for one person, say, just as a number, say 50 samples per day, because the process to do the assay is quite long. It's probably 9 or 10 steps from start to reading it at the end. Yeah. We were always constantly getting stick for not doing enough samples per day, and you scream till you're blue in the face and sending out daily reports showing that when there's one person there, the output is this much, and it doesn't get any higher. So if you want it to go higher, you have to give me more staff type thing. So we had this person working for us that their heart was not in it at all. So they really didn't want to be there. They didn't want to do anything. So eventually that just drags the whole ship down with them, especially when you're people that have managed other people. Yeah. You've got to try and remain positive and encourage the people to do their job, but when they just don't want to do it and get to the point where you're just banging your head against the wall, you just have to get rid of them. If you're doing the work of one person but you've got two people there, one of them doesn't need to be there. Yeah, absolutely. So this person got booted, and they kept wanting to come back. Because, again, where we are, we're quite isolated. The workforce is also quite small. Yeah. And there is a point where someone's not suitable for a job. It doesn't matter who they are or who else is available. If they're not suitable, they're not suitable. Yeah. And, again, with mining, there's the added thing of you're working with dangerous stuff. And, whether it be explosives or cyanide or, really hot ovens and things like this, there's the potential there for people to get killed quite easily. And, if a person's heart's not in it, doesn't want to pay attention, doesn't want to do, mind's not on the job, it just raises the stakes somewhat, makes it more likely that something's going to happen. Yeah, this person, they were there for an hour. They managed to do a tiny little bit of work within that hour, took 3 cigarette breaks, went out to make a phone call, and then I was working away, I saw them come back into the lab out of the corner of my eye. I look over, and they're cradling their arm. And I said, what's going on? And the person said, I just fell over. Anyway, long story short, she'd fully dislocated her shoulder, fully out of the socket. Oh, right. And I went, how did you do that? And she just said, I was walking past the back of the ute. We got these Land Cruiser, flatbed Land Cruisers. Yeah. And her sleeve got caught on the tie bar where you tie down the tarpaulin or whatever. Yeah. And she said, I was walking past and my sleeve got caught, and as I walked past it, yanked me back, and she sort of face-butted the steel tray of because she's only a short girl, about 5'2" or so, face-butted the steel tray, knocked herself out, and as she fell backward, her arm was still caught on this thing, and it just popped her arm straight out of the... Yeah, I didn't see it happen, but yeah.
It probably would have been, it definitely would have hurt, but it would have been quite comical to... I broke both my shoulders at once before, and that did not tickle at all. And she was hurting. When someone's hurt and you can tell, yes, you are hurt, because you can't fake that you're not. And she was only there for about an hour before that happened.
Yeah, so yeah. So I was, sent her off to the...
How did you break 2 shoulders?
Oh, mountain bike crash. When I lived in Germany, and I again, I doing a lot of single. I was actually out with friends that day, but we were doing mountain biking in the little hills next to the Rhine River.
Mm-hmm.
And I was coming down a hill and I went through this little patch of mud and the tyre just slipped out from under the bike. And I was doing about 60 k's an hour, and I just landed. Bike slipped. I remember seeing the ground come up and thinking, I'm going to slam my face into that.
Oh.
So I tucked my head under my other shoulder, and I just went, end over barrel rolling down this hill for about 50 metres, and I stood up, and I didn't have a right arm. I looked where my right arm should be, and it just wasn't there because I'd snapped right through the shoulder blade, everything, collarbones, and the whole arm had moved across my chest to the other side of my, like right next to my other shoulder, basically. Yeah. And I couldn't move my arm because the other arm was broken as well.
Oh.
So I had to put my chin in between the shoulder blades and sort of push the right shoulder back over to the right side of my body with all the cracking, and I just fainted. It hurt so much.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even got that far. I think as soon as I saw my arm in a different position, that would have been me.
I must have been adrenalising something fierce because I've fainted into a thistle bush too.
Oh.
Yeah, it was very Monty Python from all. But I spent 4.5 months in traction in hospital. So, don't go.
God.
So there was actually, I saw in my Facebook feed on one of the mountain bike groups, some guy had done the same thing and put a photo of himself up there, and I'm like, flashback, couldn't even look at it for that long.
Too close to home.
Yeah,
wow.
I did a number on myself.
So I assume that was probably the last time you ever did mountain bike riding?
No, I've got, it took a while. There was definitely a psychological barrier, but I'm sitting here in my lounge room. I've got 2 mountain bikes behind me in the lounge room here that I've bought since then. I still do. I wish I had one over where I work, but you're just too tired usually to do anything.
Yeah.
When you have your days off, you just want to do nothing.
Yeah, I guess, if you're working long hours, it's you won't do anything but move.
Well, that's the thing. I get up at 5 to go and have breakfast in the mess. Then the work day is 6 till 6, and then between 6 and 7:30 dinner. Like you can go to the mess again and have dinner. You get home at anywhere from 7 to 8 o'clock at night, and you literally last half an hour longer, and you're falling asleep.
That's incredible.
So it's long.
And what'd you do? 24 days straight?
Yeah, So I started on about I think it was the 11th or 9th of September, and I went to the 11th of basically nearly a month straight. And by 2.5 weeks in, I didn't know what planet I was on anymore.
I can't even begin.
I remember writing on Facebook, like, first day over, 23 more to go. And I'd kept that up for about 2 days. And then it's like, tomorrow I'm going home. And it's like, where's the 3 weeks in between?
Oh, well, at least
it's just a blur.
At least it was a blur. I mean, if I had to work more than 5 days in a row, and I'm just doing normal 9 to 5 sort of stuff, I would just go crazy. But to do 24 days straight with what's that, 12-hour work days plus your meals like in the mess, either side as well. I mean, if you're getting home at 8 o'clock and you've got to be up at 5, that doesn't give you a great deal of wind down time.
No. I try to go to bed by 10 o'clock. Usually I don't even make 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Because you have to get up at 5. Like 10 o'clock is 7 hours of sleep. Because it is no joke. You put your head on the pillow and you're out. It's like literally seconds later, and you wake up when your alarm goes off. And there's a lot of fatigue. Like you do get really tired.
I can imagine. Or even just doing a normal work week, let alone that many days straight, that'd just be absolutely grueling. Yeah,
I did the job before this one. I did 3 weeks on, 1 week off.
Yeah, and
that was brutal too. Like it's too long. You can't work that long and have that shorter time off to do it again.
Yeah, well, you'd just be getting over the exhaustion, and then you're ready to kick back into it again. So it's like sort of like people that go away on holiday for a week or two each year, and just as they're starting to really relax and get into it, then they're getting on the plane to go home. Yeah.
Well, that's the same. I have 5 days off. Tuesday night, I'll go to bed at the normal time and I'll try and sleep in, and you just can't.
Yeah.
You just wake up. Like, even if you woke up at 6:30, that's an hour and a half sleep in from normal.
Yeah.
But you're awake then and you're like, what should I what should I do? So I watch a lot of TV, and I get, care packages sent to me from Mr. Bailey, his USB stick of love. So, because again, the internet out there is sporadic, and Tony Abbott's internet is alive and well in Norseman. So and it's that gouging of mining workers. But I've got a Telstra Wi-Fi modem thing, but it's $100 for 10 gigabytes of data.
Right.
And you've got 90 days to use it. Oh. So it's really expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you have to pay it because there's no other option.
That's it. It's the only thing there.
And that's what keeps you sane, honestly, is that being able to connect back to your friends who are, 3,000 kilometres away, it keeps you sane. And that, before I said, if something important happens, it's usually The Bachelor or, that's because I'm watching this show. I've got very little interest in past bagging it to hell. And a friend of mine who's now in Melbourne, we're just texting how bad this show is, making wisecracks about it. And that's really one of the highlights of my week. I don't know. She might hear this. I can't hype it too much. No, she's not just that. She's like a lot of people on Messenger and stuff. I'll just text them out of the blue and just start talking to them, and you just let go all this pent-up stuff. And I've got a few friends that just let me do it, which is good. And the friend of mine I watch Bachelor and Bachelorette with, Bachelorette, just no. The Bachelor, I'd like to get your take on this, seeing as you're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Does your significant other, who I've never met, Jess, is that her name?
Yeah.
Does she watch any interest in The Bachelor or Bachelorette?
No, she's got a couple of friends that are obsessed with it, but no, she's luckily for me hasn't dabbled in that that style TV.
I'm the same. Like, reality shows don't really interest me past how unrealistic they are. Yeah. It's like the biggest oxymoron ever. Is that The Bachelor I could sort of understand because it's a guy who've got 15 odd women. Yeah. And he's got to choose which one he likes and take them on dates and stuff. That I can understand because it's somewhat realistic. Yeah. But the flip side of it was this Bachelorette, where you've got this, girl that's an absolutely stunning girl, 11 out of 10, who's got 14 guys vying for her attention. And she's saying, I want to take you out on a romantic date. I'm saying to this friend of mine, Alison, I said, this is just right. This would never happen. It's like, how many romantic dates did Jess pick you up and take you out on? I'm guessing you could say none.
not where it was an instigation.
It's just
on
the wrong.
No, it's not a traditional sort of approach.
Yeah.
No, not at
all.
Well,
that's what she eventually said. That she goes, it's just cultural that it doesn't happen. I said, yeah, but it's just I can't. It's just bizarro world to me. It's like
I wonder if it's like a bit of a fantasy, like for women to watch The Bachelorette because they can fantasize over being the center of attention of 15 guys where they can pick and choose dates. And like
I said this to Alison. I said, I don't think this would ever happen. Like, girls that good looking are getting constantly hit on. Yeah. In my experience. Yeah. So they do have their choice of these guys, but to single them out, saying, I want to single you out and you out and you out. I said, that would never happen. And asked her, how often have you asked the guy out? Yeah. And she goes, I did it once. Sorry, Alison, we're going to spill your story here. She said, I'd done it once, but I'm pretty sure he thought I was asking him out for someone else. And I was like, what?
But that obviously is, as you said, it's one of your highlights of the week, just to keep you sane, a bit of social interaction. And
it just happens to be The Bachelorette that we're talking about, but it could well be anything. And it's just that interaction with her that keeps me sane, basically, because I don't want to sound like some sort of elitist snob, but the type of person I deal with in my job from day to day is totally not the type of person I'm used to being. Or I'm highly educated and somewhat clever, and I'm in the absolute minority out there.
I think at least for me, I was always perplexed when I meet people that work a 9 to 5 job, a full-time job, and their social circles are their work colleagues. So whoever they work with are their best friends, and so they interact constantly over. The cycle continues all through the weekend, same people. And for me, I have to keep the world separate. I cannot, like, if I see someone's name pop up, or like even if I get a friend request through Facebook and it's somebody that I've worked with, I mean, everyone's pleasant. I get along with people, and whatnot, but I cringe a little bit because it's like, the worlds are blending. How can I keep these separate?
That's it. I'm exactly the same. Yeah. There's very few people I work with that I friend on Facebook. Very few, because you have to have that barrier where you can rant about them, because
that's it. And I think for a lot of people, I mean, unless you're one of the lucky few where you work in some form of industry or job that's you've got an absolute passion for, and that is your life, it's your life calling and whatnot, then you could probably bridge the two worlds together, because that's your whole world. But for a lot of people, the work is a means. It's a means to fuel the rest of your life, and I think when I start seeing people outside of work, I just associate bad thoughts of being at work if I see them on the weekend.
I got another good story about that.
Oh, yeah.
Lawyers. If you know any lawyers, that is exactly what I dated. Like when I went to Germany, I had a German girlfriend, and she was a lawyer. Well, she still is probably. She was studying law then, and the lawyers just do not hang around anyone else that isn't in law.
Yeah, right.
They just can't. Because I remember being at a party that I just dragged along to. Everyone there was a lawyer except me. And, you're getting asked questions, what type of law do you study? And I'm like, I don't. And this one girl, I had her, like, questioning her life because, one, she couldn't talk English. And two, I wasn't a lawyer and I could speak German.
Yeah.
And she didn't know how to talk to me about anything that wasn't law. And she actually said to me, I don't know how to talk to you. And she just turned around and walked away. And I was like, yeah, okay. And then went and found my girlfriend and said, I'm bored. Can I leave? She's like, oh, no, come and talk to this guy. He's a contract lawyer. I'm like, so, we broke up. And again, I broke up because I was too Australian.
Oh, was that the reason?
That was the reason.
Oh, really?
Well, the Germans and Australians, you're battling uphill most of the time, I think.
I think without stereotyping too much, and I know a lot of German people that I get along with, but it's definitely from a cultural point of view, and I think even from a humour aspect and an outlook on life, it's very different, and they've got definitely a different approach to their humour. And the way that they interact with people, and very robotic at times as well. And
talking of their humour,
did
you find that the thing they find the funniest is people being hurt, like physical humour, like Funniest Home Videos where the kid whacking his dad in the nads with a golf club? That's hilarious to them.
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of people that probably are like that in Australia as well, but but it is. I think when we were not when I was last in Germany, but one of the times I was in Germany where I was watching, just trying to decipher German TV, and there was heaps of those types of shows on there.
Yeah.
But the weirdest thing that I found with their humour was, I don't even know if they think it's funny, but they think it's really cool. Like, their sense of, how like I'm just trying to think of the best way to describe this, but. When you in Western culture, like when someone gives the definition of something that's cool, whether it's fashion or music or whatever, for a lot of them, or the people that I've met, a lot of their definition of cool is really, really awkward and tacky and very. I'm just trying to think of a
bizarre.
Like they've got there's a proper word for it, but the German beer music, what do they call it? Not polka, but just
the Oompa.
Yeah. There's a
Bavarian folk music type thing.
Yeah, and I've got a really good friend of mine that lived in Germany for a couple of years on exchange, and he was telling me all about it, and I saw a couple of these performances on TV, and they got these really, really old guys who are apparently really famous in Germany. and they do this sort of this type of music, but it's to like a techno dance beat, and like there's these flashing lights. It's like everyone's on pills, and it's this Bavarian style, Oompa sort of music.
Yeah, that's surreal.
And apparently these people are so famous. And so I was asking my friend, I said, what's the go with this? And they said, the Germans love it. Like they said, you'll be at a bar or, something like a beer hall or whatever, and this music comes on and everybody gets into it. They love it.
Yeah, there's not really the same sort of thing here. I can't think of... Probably the closest thing would be like if you're at a pub and someone starts playing Up There Kazali or something.
Oh, yeah.
That everybody knows. And, Up There Kazali, they're all the same,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean.
Well, I guess, we're pretty weird ourselves, and we've got all our stupid things that we sing along to. And then you've got, like, those folk artists, I'm really giving them a lot of credit by calling them folk artists, but, like Kevin Bloody Wilson and stuff like that, which, it's obviously a lot of humour put into it, but I'm sure for a German, that would come here.
Well, we've got people like Slim Dusty and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like Pub with No Beer. Most people would know that in Australia.
Yeah.
And they definitely have their own pavilion songs that, like, if you've been to Oktoberfest, they're just ringing out of every pavilion at Oktoberfest, and you feel like such a failure because you don't know them because you're not German.
Can you imagine Slim Dusty with a techno beat though?
Yeah. Well, there's some clubs, like I'd lived there for 4 years. And I lived in a fairly mid-sized town to begin with, but then a really small town at the end. And the mid-sized town, even they got like really famous acts coming through there all the time.
Yeah, right.
And like I was at uni, like I've always been into metal and stuff. One of the guys I did my PhD with was a bouncer, like at a nightclub. He's a big German guy too. And he would play techno and trance music and stuff in the lab, and the trance mix would go for 2 or 3 hours, and you'd just be bopping along to it while you're working in the chem lab. So I sort of got an appreciation for that as well after 4 or 5 years of it. And there's clubs in Germany where you walk in there, there's this full-on hardcore techno going, and you look over at the wall, and there's guys in their 50s and 60s there. And all of a sudden they'll just walk out into the middle of the room and bust out these crazy techno dance moves, and you're looking at them going, I know I'm in Germany because I'm watching this, because that wouldn't happen anywhere else. As quickly as it starts, they just stop and they walk back into the shadows of the side of the dance floor.
Go and take a break.
And everybody cheers, and then someone else will go out and bust their moves. And you're like,
the only time we see anything equivalent to that is when you find the really, really drunk guy who stumbled into a metal gig, doesn't know where he is, but he's had that many pots of beer that he starts breaking out some moves on the dance floor. We had one. Yeah. We played in Townsville a few months ago, and it was like an all-day sort of metal fest thing. It started about midday and went to midnight, and there was one guy there who must have stumbled in from the public bar, and he was doing all sorts of dances. He was getting down and shaking his bum and doing. I've got it on video somewhere. I think I put up on the Lord page, but all these metalheads are standing there, and everyone's like, no one's watching the band, and the band's like playing death metal music or whatever, and this guy's just throwing down these arms and just getting really sort of aggressive, and he's a big smile on his face with his glass of beer.
That's it. And he's fighting off a plague of invisible rats, and everyone's just watching him going, yeah.
And then when the song finishes and the place just goes crazy, they're cheering the guy, and the band's like, oh, we're doing pretty well. Little do they know there's an old guy who's just been breaking out the best moves on the floor.
Yeah, they're funny people, the Germans.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well, look, I won't keep you too much longer, but as promised, there is something that I need to ask you about. And I'll laugh if we're not even on the same page, but I've got a feeling we probably are. But I'm surprised that Shane's even told you what I was going to ask you. But I've been told to ask you about the panel van in Port Vincent.
Yeah, same page city.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, Shane and I grew up in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. Yeah. In a sort of the rock scene. Like our friends that we're still friends with, they had a band that was quite popular, and they were the long hairs. There's three or four of them brothers, and two of them were in the band. It's the drummer and the guitarist, and Robert's the guitarist. He was, for a person that was only newly into seeing people play musical instruments, he was amazing. He plays in a band called the Barking Ants in Adelaide here, which have got a huge following now. He had, the hair down to his waist when he was 17, 18. He's rocking the, Ibanez guitar, and they were playing pubs and stuff all over the place. So we sort of hung around that, and when we got around the age where we could drive and stuff, Shane was in a band with a couple other people, and they had a gig at Port Lincoln, I think it was, and there was me and two other guys that borrowed. Shane had a huge panel van, and we hooked up the trailer with all the instruments and PAs and everything, and we drove it from Adelaide to Port Lincoln to set everything up for them, because I think it might have been a Friday night gig or something, and we could go during the day. I think I was probably at uni or something like that, so I could just say, like uni, I'll go. So we went and set up this thing at the Port Lincoln pub. Anyway, because we were there all day, by the time they got on, I was rat-faced drunk, just absolutely trashed. And they played, and there's a few people there, and then there's the inevitable band's over, pack everything up, go and get even more drunk. So, apparently I became quite enamoured with this young lady that was there, and she was equally as drunk as I was, and, from what I hear, Shane sort of got in his car at the end of the night, and we were in the back of it. And he turned, like he heard something in the back of his car, and he turned around and didn't expect to see me, because by my own admission, hopeless with women in a romantic sense.
Yeah.
No problems at all, getting myself into friend zones.
Yeah.
I'm the most friend zoned person on earth, I think. So no problems talking to girls, but huge problems getting past the talking stage to anything physical.
Yeah.
But then there's me in the back of this, in the back of a panel van, the quintessential stereotype, with this girl I just met, and apparently she was not pretty. I honestly can't even remember. I just remember she was Greek, and So we went there. They were giving me. It's one of, like I was saying at the start, it's one of those things where the next day they're giving me so much shit about it, and I just had to say, okay, if that's what you say happened, because I had no recollection of it at all,
and probably for the best as well. Yeah.
Well, I'm really not like that. I've never had a one night stand in my life except for that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So. It's really out of character for me, but alcohol's a wonderful drug, I suppose.
Well, obviously it impressed Shane so much that he remembered it, and he still recalls it, and it must have really sort of left a beautiful image in his mind as well. Yeah,
I'm so upset that he got married, because the stories I could tell you about him. Oh, there's some shockers in there, like absolute shockers. That it's premarital stories that no one's going to get any laughs out of except you and I. But it's like I knew Shane. I met Shane when I was in year 6, and we still friends today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when I came back home, second day here, I drove out, walked in the shop. Nothing. He hasn't changed. Like, that's the thing. He's married and got 2 kids, and I don't. And I've never been married and have no kids, and I sort of am probably exactly the same as I was when we were 17. I haven't had to grow up and become an adult in the same sense that he has. But he's still the same.
Yeah.
So, it gives you can see you see it with some people, like they've got this exterior of an adult for about 5 minutes when they fall back into being familiar with you.
Yeah.
And then it's he starts like while I was there, he called up his distributor.
Yeah.
And he's ordering stuff, and how everything's got a code like ESP7J thing, but you know how the radio you go, Whiskey Alpha Foxtrot.
Yeah.
Every word, every letter, the phonetic thing for it, or is just the most disgusting word you can think of. So he's like, if I need a VJB, he goes, I need a vagina ball gigolo type thing, number 1, and like customers are walking into the shop, and he's saying this on the phone with a straight face. But what is it? 20, 30 years nearly of hijinks with Shane.
Well, you must have
And that's
quite a few
how
stories
I met
then.
you. I met you guys through him.
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's right. Beer Towers was our introduction.
Well, that's the thing. I was in a pretty low place in career-wise at that point, and he's like, I'll come and pick you up and we'll go and see these guys and we'll have a good time. I'm like, oh, all right, I can't really, didn't know what to expect, and yeah, bloody Beer Towers and Furtners and...
Mork and Andy's.
Yeah, we better touch on that too, eh?
Oh, well, yeah, I've got that written here as well. I forgot all about it until just then.
Because that's what people would know. Like, the reason you're probably interviewing me at all is because of Mork and Andy.
Oh, well, it kind of wasn't. I mean, I was quite fascinated with everything out at Norseman, and especially going out to Kalgoorlie earlier in the year and just realising how crazy of an area of the world it is, just being so isolated from everywhere else. Yeah. So that was the main sort of reasoning to reach out. But yeah, the Mork and Andy thing's definitely something we should make a mention of.
Yeah, this is the literal 15 minutes of fame, isn't it? Because that's about how long that joke lasted. It really it just started with, I just got a message from Mark.
Yeah.
And he sent me one of those Harry Plonker or whatever it is.
The Spoderman or whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it was the Harry Potter one. He sent me three, and it was the one with like, I'm not really in the Potter sphere at all. I've watched the movies once. I have no idea who anyone is. Yeah. It was that Robbie Coltrane character. And it's got Harry Potter there, and he's going, are you excited for Halloween? Hagrid, I think his name is. Hagrid, and he goes, yeah, I am, Harry, but it's not for 3 days. And he says something like, are you wearing your mask early to this Hagrid thing? And then he's crying in the next thing. And Mark's going, these are so funny. And he says, I wish we could do one for Lord and just have us doing stupid shit.
Yeah.
He said, do you reckon you could draw? I don't know why. He must have talked about drawing, or I'd drawn something else for you guys. I can't remember. So I said, I'll have a bash at drawing you, like Mark.
Yeah.
So Mork sort of, from the humble beginnings to Mork, was literally half an hour. Like I think I sent him a draft.
Yeah.
And he'd done his little ponytail, sorry.
Yeah.
And he goes, the hair's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
He said the hair's wrong. But yeah, Mork was pretty much knocked out of the park with a couple of iterations. And he's like, that's cold, that's stopped now, let's do something with that. And then we sent it to you, I think. And you came back with, that's fantastic, do one for me. Yeah. And geez, you were so hard to just derp. Yeah. To take you and just turn you into a derp was just so hard.
It's a hard thing for people to comprehend. I mean, to be honest, Mark's, he's easy to derp up. So
yeah. Well, Mark's got the, if you had to pick one thing from Mark to play on, it's his physique. Like, he's a big, muscly guy. Whereas yourself, you're not. No. You're. I suppose what we settled with you was the beard. Yeah. The beard without much of a mustache, and the hair, basically.
Yeah, that's it.
And the size difference between you two.
Yeah, so, it definitely works.
So well. I think where there might have been 2 or 3 iterations of Mork, there would have been 50 of Andy. And some of them, like, I look back at them and I'm just going, geez, what was I thinking? And then eventually it got to the one that we settled on, and I reckon that was the best one.
Yeah. Oh, it was great. I was crying when I saw that. Saw the final draft of it. Yeah.
The problem with Mork and Andy as the cartoon thing is we set the bar so high, so quickly that we just couldn't get up there again. Like, I'd be bouncing ideas off Mark, like 4 lines in a message, like panel 1, blah blah blah, panel 2, blah blah blah, panel 3, blah blah blah, panel 4, blah blah blah, and that's all I'd send, and he'd send back, I lolled, I lolled, but it's not really up to the standard we need because God, we said it. And, the only way they got funnier was to be more brutal to you.
Well, that's it. And it kind of worked out well, like, because a lot of the shit that I hang on him, like, I do a lot of that because he's such an easy target. And it worked out well that the roles were reversed now. and I just copped it so much with these cartoons. And every day, like, just log on and says, "Oh, Mark's added a photo of you," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, all right, what's this one?" And look at it, and it's something about me being a faggot or something. I'm like, and just it was so funny, but oh man,
it got so popular so quickly that and like I said, the bar was so high that we couldn't get up there again.
Yeah.
Like, we had all these, like, I've probably got 20 or 30 just sitting on my computer that I'd send to Mark, and he'd just go, nah, that's not good. Andy's not copping it. It's not copping Andy enough, you know. We've got to make him, you know, unless he's tearing up in real life, it's not good enough. So, but then just a few weeks ago, I'd said, we haven't done one for a long time. We should just surprise the public with a new Mork and Andy. And apparently he got a lot of complaints about him.
Oh, yeah?
He was saying, I got a lot of people messaging him, like, you know, mainly for calling you a faggot and stuff.
Oh, really?
And I just went, and he goes, I don't think it's worth it because they're talking shit about me and talking shit about your band and it's not worth the hassle. I'm like, I had no idea.
I'll have to chat to him because he hasn't mentioned it to me. But, I mean, you know, went from the cartoons and then we printed the T-shirts and we've sold quite a few T-shirts and I've had people overseas buying the T-shirts. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I saw the guy from Doro.
Yeah, the guys from Doro.
Doro's band. I've seen two in the wild.
Oh, yeah? Really?
Yeah. So I was like, and I showed, like, when I was drawing some other stuff for you and some other people go to me, that's really good. You should make T-shirts or something. I go, well, you know, actually, I've got one that sold, you know, a ridiculous amount of T-shirts. And they go, oh, yeah, whatever. And I show them the Mork and Andy one. They're like, did you do, I've seen that in, you know, this place and this place, people wearing them. I'm like, and then I wondered, like, how many did you actually sell?
Yeah, we've sold quite a few. I mean,
like triple figures or four figigures or triple figures, but a couple of hundred or so.
Yeah, but pretty good. I mean, especially for like a very niche sort of shirt that we didn't really expect. We honestly really just thought it'd be like about 20 or 30 people that had been liking the pictures, and that's it. Yeah. And I thought if I can sell that, they just went crazy after that. But even like when I was in the US a few weeks back, and someone was asking me about, and they couldn't understand what it was about. They couldn't understand the humour. So I spent, you know, I'd had a few beers. So, you know, obviously, you know, when I start to explain something like this, I get quite animated. And by the end of this explanation, which probably lasted for about 6 hours, they were won over. And then I looked on my phone later on, and here's an online store order from this guy, and he'd ordered a shirt straight away. So, and there's a bunch of guys in the US that have got these shirts, and I think a couple of people in parts of Asia have ordered. And then the Doro guys have got a shirt each as well. Yeah. So it's something where it sort of died off for a while, and especially when we haven't been doing the comics. But I've still got a whole bunch of T-shirts there, and they still. I don't take them to shows. Like when we play shows, I don't take them with me because I don't expect many people to know. But that's a shirt that people keep asking me about. Going, have you got any of the Mork and Andy T-shirts? So I'm like, no, they're at home. You have to order them online, and they get shitty with me for it. I'm like, well maybe
that shirt saved my life. That shirt saved my life in Kalgoorlie. Yeah, because after the show, I was like just milling around, and Lambie was giving me the stinkiest dead eye. So I was looking at me like, "Who the hell are you wearing a Mork and Andy shirt and talking to Andy?" Because I didn't know him at that point. So he was giving me the Lambie death eye with like, "How dare you talk to Andy?" and "I don't know who you are." So I went over and I said, "You're Steve Lambie, aren't you?" Like completely turned the tables on him.
Yeah. And
he's like, "What? Yeah? How do you know me?" And I said, "You're the guy that bought this number T-shirt of Mork and Andy." And he goes, "Oh, did I?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Well, how come you know all about it?" I said, "It's because I drew them." And he's like, "Oh!" And mates for life now. But hey, geez, that was so funny. Yeah, he was giving me the evilest eye I've ever seen. Like,
how funny! He's like the most harmless guy.
Yeah, I know.
And hasn't got a bad bone in his body. He must have just had too many pints, I reckon.
No, it was just fun. Like I'd been talking to you during the night, and he was on the door, I think, so he didn't see it.
He was probably getting shitty that he volunteered to help me with the door, and then he realised what it entailed, and he went, "Oh, this sucks."
Fuck off! I made myself scarce when you said, "Does anybody want to work on the door?" I'm like, "Oh, I've just got to go." But talk to Tim about phones for a second.
anything's better than working the door.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim. Oh, classic. All right, man. Well, I'm going to let you go.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. When do you go back to Norseman?
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday. Oh.
2 days from now. We've got one more day in civilization tomorrow and going to go buy a few more. I'm just loading myself up with stuff I just can't get.
Yeah. Yeah. Any particular items that you load up on you?
Oh, yeah, like Metwurst.
Oh,
There's this brand in South Australia here called Butchers that's only available at Foodland. Get in there, people. Buy it up. It is the best Metwurst I've ever had. And I'll buy like 2 or 3 of the huge long ones. Metwurst, we're still talking here. And just throw them in my luggage because you can't just get anything like it out there.
Well, what is it?
Mainly
Metwurst. Oh, okay.
So it's like salami.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a South Australian thing. I know you probably call Fritz something else over in that side of the world.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It's like salami, but it's called, the German name for it's Metwurst.
Yeah. No, I know what it is now. So what do? Just load up your suitcase full of salami?
Well, I buy 2 or 3 of them, put them in with the clothes I'm taking back, because when I'm not working, I can't eat in the mess at the camp. So for 5 days, I have to provide my own food, basically. So I'd load up on stuff I know I'll eat from here that I can get back without the sniffer dogs taking it. Because, there's all the quarantine stuff with crossing the state line. And
yeah, of course, no fruit.
But, mate, other stuff I buy is just, like, clothes.
Yep.
Because clothes and, like I bought a new phone because the one I had was full of dust and stopped working. And earphones. I listen to podcasts and stuff while I work. So, I go through headphones like no one's business. I just get full of dirt and dust. And, pretty just stuff like that. Just little trinkets to keep myself busy. Like, I bought some PlayStation games and stuff that you can't get out there. So.
Just stuff to pass the time when you're there.
Yeah, well, that's it. Just to alleviate the boredom of when I'm not working.
Well, enjoy your trinket shopping tomorrow.
Yeah, no worries.
And safe travels back to Norseman. Yeah, pleasure. We'll do it again soon.
Okay,
no
worries.
Take care, man.
See ya.
See ya. Thank you, everyone. Hope you enjoyed that. A bit different. Hopefully you got something out of it. Please support Michael with his new photography page he's put up. It's called Field Star Photography. I'll put the link in the show notes and chuck it up in the links of the Facebook page and everything like that. So get on there, make sure you make contact with him, leave him a bunch of comments and likes and shares and whatever the hell else on his page. Make him feel loved. Really appreciate anything you can do just to connect with all the people that I get on the show. As always, and I said at the start, and I'll say it on every episode, find me on iTunes, press that 5-star little button to rate me, or 1 star or whatever, but preferably 5 would be better, and leave me a review. And to be honest, I know it's a pain in the ass, and most of the time when you're listening to this, you're probably driving or you're doing something where you're not near a computer, but just it takes like 2 minutes to do, if that, and you can write like 1 word if you really want to. So you don't have to write an essay, you don't have to write anything sort of over the top and crazy, just a one-liner or a couple of words or whatever it might be. Nice and simple, but the more activity that's shown for the podcast, then the better it's going to go in the charts, and it's just going to help me get more exposure and more reach to more people. On the back of that, I'm on Twitter, so find me on there. So it's just Andy Dowling. Lord's on Twitter as well. That's Lord Official. Pretty much if you type Lord Official into almost every social media platform, you'll find the band on there. So make sure you get onto all those things and connect with the band on there. And then, of course, the Facebook page for me and the podcast, which is, if you'll actually type in the URL, it's facebook.com/Andy Dowling Official. Get on there and help me boost this page, because Facebook are a bunch of assholes. And every time I post something, I get a reach of about 50 people. We have to try and beat the algorithm somehow and get some of you guys on there and liking posts and sharing stuff. And, just a couple of clicks, as I said before, makes a massive difference for me. And hopefully it'll just get easier and easier to reach more people with each post. So it'll be my responsibility to make sure that posts pop up. But I'm hoping that you guys can help me out and just be as interactive as you can with the time that you got, just to help boost and make sure that the posts are reaching as many people as possible. Apart from that, just a big thank you to everybody who's been listening in and supporting. A lot of great feedback and comments from people, a lot of cool ideas ideas that people are throwing my way. I've actually been working on some additional stuff on the side of the podcast that'll be an audio format that I'll look to put out over the coming months as I find the time to do it. It's been quite interesting just a few weeks into this podcast, and I'm sitting on the 12th episode now, and it's been very interesting. It's opened up a lot of doors. It's even just from the people that I've spoken to date, just understanding and appreciating conversation with people has just been fantastic, and it's just, I think I've just grown a lot in such a short period of time. It's been really fantastic. So regardless of the success of the podcast and how many people listen to it moving forward, what's happened already since I've launched the podcast has just been well and truly worth it. So I'm extremely stoked of what's come of it so far, and it looks to be, as a bonus, there's a lot of further opportunities that are going to come from it, and it's also been good as a good connection and some cross promotion from the band. Even though I don't really talk about the band a great deal so far in the podcast, so I do reference the band every once in a while, but I'll begin to add some more episodes and refer to the band a little bit more here and there as we go along. But I really wanted to make this podcast a bit separate to the band to a degree, but also use the profile of the band and the momentum of the band to push the podcast and bridge the two worlds together as well. So this podcast is not just for myself, it's for the band, and it's to do a bit of cross promotion, and I've got a lot of cool ideas down the track that'll hopefully continue to melt the worlds together, so to speak. But yeah, lots of things, but I'm rambling on. So once again, thank you very much. Continue to support every way you can. All the show notes, all the links, anything that I can think of that was in the episode will be noted in there. And thank you so much, and we'll be back next week with episode 13, which I have no idea what that's going to be yet, but I'll work that out very shortly. But thanks again, and stick around, and we'll speak soon. Cheers.